Hi, everyone. Thank you, Blue Line, for inviting us to speak at this conference. My name is Constable Brian Nikon, the Vancouver Police Department.
Hi everyone, I'm Sergeant John Roberts, the Sergeant in charge of Control Tactics here at the Vancouver Police Department. Today we're going to talk about some of the challenges that police training currently faces and how agencies can overcome some of those challenges. Here our expertise is in control tactics training, but I believe that there is a lot of overlap with other aspects of police training.
So I think the bottom line is that police officers in North America simply don't train as much as they should. The bulk of training that does occur typically has to do with recertifications for their control tactics or intermediate tools. That takes up a lot of time. There's also other aspects of training that have to happen. And with limited training time, it's very difficult to get an emphasis or priority put onto control tactics, which is our specialty. But I think that needs to change. So the quals that the officers go through every year, it's a good indication for the instructors and for the officer themselves how their control tactics skills are. So the officers will see if there's a deficiency or if there's something that needs to be worked on. But that time to build in the extra training when there is a deficiency isn't quite there yet. So there are things that agencies can do, and we're going to talk about a couple of them here today.
Most police officers leave their police academy with a fairly high level of proficiency in control tactics. I mean, part of the reason is they're forced to be there. But without regular repetition and refresher training in those skills, they will diminish very quickly. That's just a fact. Regular training isn't currently built into deployment schedules. Some of the reasons are staffing levels. Staffing levels in operations or general duty, certainly here in Vancouver, there's some challenges there. We have 660 officers that work in operations. We're a mid to larger size agency, about 1,500 police officers, but operations is always short. So to get people off the road and in for training is very hard. You put that together with the motivation of the individual officer. We have all sorts of training opportunities here in Vancouver that people can take advantage of. But we do often see the same people that have that dedicated interest into training. We'd like to expand that to a much larger group. Another thing that we face here is the availability of the trainers. In our section, we basically have 4 or 5 people that are on the mats here and on a regular basis, and we work a day shift schedule. In patrol, not everyone works a day shift schedule. So we have to find creative ways to make ourselves available for the members to come in here and take advantage of it. Making officer safety a priority in an organization. I know there's many priorities that organizations have to face. A lot of them are politically driven, but making training a priority is something else that I think would really encourage and benefit people for officer safety and public safety.
So when put up against all these challenges, trainers have to get creative. So there's a couple of things that we've done here in Vancouver to kind of fill the gaps for training, and it might be useful for your agency as well. So one of them is to offer regular police judo practices. So I'll talk about that more in a minute. The other thing that we've been trying to get going, and it's actually had quite a bit of success, is regular availability of the trainers after hours so that they can come and train patrol teams that want to come in for extra training. We'll talk a little bit more about what police judo is. So the police judo that we do here, it's based on sport judo, but it's been modified to be a control tactic that really focuses on duty of care. So being able to control somebody safely, take them into custody without hurting them or the officer is a priority. So, but in order to get to that point, you need to practice quite a bit. So being able to use your hands in conjunction with your verbal skills, that's something that we think is very, very important. So when officers come to a police judo practice, we incorporate basic skills, so the foundational skills, and then add in scenarios that they might actually face on the road. So they'll have an opportunity to try out a technique with resistance from their partner to see if it actually works, see if they're doing it right or not. And the instructor will be there to help guide them through. If they need a little bit of extra help, we'll pull them aside and work on a specific skill. Or if they come to us with a problem that they've had, maybe it's based on a call that maybe went sideways, and they are looking for more training in that specific technique, we'll help them out with that as well.
So that, for lack of better words, one-off on-duty training for a patrol team that Brian's talking about, we sort of came up with this, some feedback from the membership. We call it Charlie training, or Charlie shift training, because it's named after one of our shift patterns. It does require our trainers to modify their schedules, which thankfully here in Vancouver we have trainers that are willing to do that, to modify their schedule to stay a little bit later to help assist in the training. It has been a very successful endeavor, actually. Trainers will consult with the patrol teams to debrief specific calls, or workshop specific techniques, come up with a bunch of stuff and do continued repetitions, or we might even do some reality-based training. In Vancouver, we have the ability to use role players to play the subjects or suspects, and that allows the officers to sort of build blueprints in their minds. So it's like, okay, I've been here before. This is very supervisor driven from the patrol teams. So there's some very switched on to training supervisors out there that absolutely see the benefit of this, and there's others that don't necessarily see this as a priority, and that will impact on who comes in and do the training. We do hear like that concepts of putting people under a little bit of stress, under a controlled environment or controlled stress. We want the officers to, it becomes very real for them. And we want them to have this blueprint in their mind, so when they actually go and face this incident or the real encounter, mentally they've been there before. So they they can see what's been successful and get to a safe, desired income, resolving things at the lowest level of force possible.
So the challenge with both of these training initiatives, both the police judo practices and the Charlie training, is that they are voluntary. No one's being told that they have to come to the training. Maybe from their sergeant, they're encouraged, and that will be how we're getting people on the mats. But really, it has to come from, as it is now, the officer themselves that feels like they need more training. So that's not the best setup. I think that if we were to integrate regular training into deployment schedules so that it was something that you just did on a regular basis. I mean, an ideal situation would be that we would train 25% of the time, but that's not realistic. I understand that with budgets, especially with budget cuts that a lot of agencies have struggled with, that's not feasible. But at least getting people onto the mats so they can use their control tactics at least once a month for a couple of hours would be a huge benefit, because they are diminishable skills, right? These things that people are expected to do and expected to do well by the public just aren't going to be there if you haven't practiced. So I think that's kind of the direction we would like to go, and there's definitely been an appetite for that. And I think that we are looking towards getting more regular training, and that is going to help downstream. If we have officers that are more competent and confident with their control tactic skills, they're going to get into less incidents where they've had to escalate use of force, or there's been less problems with mistakes or errors with control tactics.
Trainers always want to give officers the best possible tools to keep themselves and the public safe. I believe this is going to require a paradigm shift and mindset to training. We need to do a better job to make it a priority. You know, there's always going to be challenges, and a big one is often cost. If we can identify the cost associated to this when we're putting together our strategic plans and our budgets, we identify what it's actually going to cost to do this and put it in our operational budget, and get some buy-in from the members and get the members in here to train.
So I think that modern day policing, as everyone watching this knows, is a very stressful profession. Increased oversight, staff shortages, we won't even get into that here, we all know. But we don't want to add also the stress of not feeling confident with your control tactics. So if we were to make it a priority, and I think we're already going that direction, we'll see that the cost of doing the training will surpass the cost of not doing the training. When you think about litigation or fail to train or all kinds of issues that come up when training is insufficient.
We're asking more and more of our officers on a daily basis. They're finding themselves in rapidly unfolding violent situations where they're being forced to make split-second decisions that ultimately they could be questioned on for years and years and years. It's up to us as trainers, managers, leaders in police organizations to see the value in this, and we're sometimes very reactive in policing, but we all know if something is predictable, then hopefully it's preventable. So we need to get in front of these things and set people up for success. We need to be more proactive as opposed to reactive. And if we can do that, I think you're setting up the individual member for success and the organization for success. Thank you very much for giving us a little bit of your time here today, and I hope that, or I guess we hope, that you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.